Ida gets underway.
New travel rules for Americans headed to Europe. I'm Tina Kraus with what flyers will face as COVID cases rise.
And the last U.S. soldier has left Afghanistan, but some Americans remain behind.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
4-state crews joined volunteers from all over the country in response to calls for mutual aid in both Louisiana and Mississippi in the wake of Hurricane Ida. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, more than 1 million homes and businesses in Louisiana are without power due to Hurricane Ida. With 2,000 miles of transmission lines to repair, there may be no power for weeks, leaving residents who did not evacuate in sweltering heat. The National Weather Service predicts the heat index could rise to a potentially life-threatening 103 degrees today. The state's governor says 25,000 utility workers are rushing to restore electricity, and more workers are on the way. The storm is blamed for at least 4 deaths, including 2 people in Mississippi whose cars plunged into a hole when a highway collapsed due to torrential rains. Rescue crews are still going door to door in some communities, searching for families stranded by floodwaters. And a 4-man team of volunteers from Carthage Water and Electric joined 28 others from around the state in an effort to revive the power grid. Volunteers from Oklahoma's Fire and Emergency Management also made the trip down south to lend a hand. Other volunteers on scene include police, firefighters, and the American Red Cross.
There is they talk about an Oklahoma standard, and I think these guys uphold that pretty well when they go into a situation like this to help however they need to. So our objective is just to help our neighbors and to do it as quickly and safely as possible.
If you'd like to donate money to help out, we have information on our website. Of course, here in the 4 states, we've had quite a foggy morning that's turned into a cloudy day. Michael Hislop joins us.
And some rain of our own to talk about. But first, since we're coming off the Ida story, let's go ahead and run down to the southeastern portion of the United States as we're seeing the remnants of Ida pushing the rain through Tennessee, now up through portions of Kentucky and West Virginia, and actually tracking as far north right now as Pennsylvania. Now, when we talk about the flood warnings associated with the tropical storm / hurricane / remnants, look at this, stretching from the Gulf all the way through D.C., New York, and up to Boston, and those lasting all the way into Thursday. Now, earlier, you'll notice some flood warnings right there on the north side of Omaha, and they even had some severe thunderstorm warnings. Well, guess what? This thing has made its way down to the north, and we are now the recipients of some good old-fashioned late August thunderstorm activity. What we're seeing is heavy rain upon that leading edge right there, just about to make its way down to Pittsburgh. Everything working from north to south right now. Lightning has been limited, but it does exist, especially right along the Missouri-Kansas state line. It's going to break up, though, as it continues to drop to the south. So not everybody is going to get the rain, even though it's needed by just about everyone. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting here watching the tower cam. 7th and range line looks absolutely fine. Our temperatures are going to be into the 90s today. We'll go low 90s for the most part, though. Feel about like, say, 94, 95. It's not a huge difference. But then, Tanya, as we turn into September, look at where we're headed. They got those heat advisories. I got a feeling that are going to make a return on Saturday and Sunday.
That's for sure. It's going to be hot.
We'll talk about our rain amounts here when I see you in just a bit.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Michael. In World Watch, the Taliban is now in complete control of Afghanistan. The last American soldier flew out of the country at the stroke of midnight, ending the 20-year war. Not every American or Afghan with a visa made it out before the deadline, though. It's estimated between 100 and 200 still remain in the country. President Biden is scheduled to deliver remarks this afternoon on the end of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan. The latest COVID surge in the U.S. could mean more restrictions for Americans traveling to Europe. As Tina Kraus reports, the European Union has removed the U.S. from its safe list of countries.
American tourist Tiffany Zahn is taking in the beauty of Barcelona, even during the pandemic.
Most of the parks and the museums are open, which is great.
But some countries could soon be closed to Americans now that the European Union is recommending restricting all non-essential travel from the U.S.
The high infection rates in the US and the low take-up of vaccines combined together, they represent a real public health threat to Europe.
The EU has taken the U.S. off its safe list and says it'll be up to each country to set its own travel policy. There may be fewer restrictions for Americans who are fully vaccinated.
What's your advice to U.S. travelers who are wanting to get over here to Europe right now? They're itching to get here.
Don't please plan any great trans-European adventures. It's difficult enough keeping tabs on what one country requires, let alone multiple nations.
Travel writer Simon Calder says pick your target country and just watch it like a hawk.
The main thing is you don't want to be taken by surprise by new rules suddenly imposed overnight.
The advice from the European Union doesn't apply to Britain since it's no longer part of the EU. Fully vaccinated Americans are still welcome in the UK, and many are still flying into the arms of those they love. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
U.S. has still not reopened its borders to European tourists, including people from Britain. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, the investigation continues after Friday night lights turn into alleged fights in Webb City. And later, we're making fall off the bone short ribs in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. With a game-winning field goal, Friday night's football game between Webb City and Joplin High School excited many in the community. But events following the game left at least one man injured. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky lays out the story after talking with local police, both school districts, and the injured man.
If you were on Facebook or Twitter this weekend, you've probably seen images and videos shared following a football game between Joplin and Webb City high schools. Many unconfirmed claims were shared around, so KOAM reached out to the schools along with police dispatched to the scene to see what really happened. In a joint statement from Webb City and Joplin Schools Administration, we were told that following an investigation, there was no evidence of damage of the turf or any vandalism in the restrooms. However, there was a sink broken prior to halftime in the ladies' restroom on the home side, but there is no evidence that it was some sort of vandalism. Following claims of fights that broke out, we were sent a statement on Saturday from the Webb City Police Department. They said they were dispatched to 3 skirmishes on the parking lot of the high school football stadium after the game. According to the Webb City Police Department, no arrests have been made following Friday night's incident, and the department is still investigating. The victim of that assault they are investigating is Dennis Grissom, a 69-year-old man who lives nearby the stadium.
The people came back from the game, and Dennis and the kids was sitting there. And Dennis approached the people to see who they were, and the guy put his chest up onto Dennis's chest, and the kids looked away for a moment. They looked back, and Dennis was on the ground, and Dennis was hugging the guy, trying to just stop him from hitting. The dad had him in a headlock.
Split my sternum, and
his face.
And I got a concussion. I had lumps and bumps beat all over me.
No students were reported to be involved with the assault, and the ones identified in the fights taking place in the parking lot have been identified from each school district and subject to each school's disciplinary policy. In Webb City, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
The full joint statement from Joplin and Webb City school districts is available on our website, and you can find that at KOAMnewsnow.com. Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
Today, we're sharing a recipe for ribs that are so tender and meaty, they practically fall off the bone. Any idea what kind of ribs we're starting with?
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Little thunderstorm to begin, end August and then begin September. And I tell you what, when we do begin September, we're going to be talking about a little bit of a heat wave coming back and getting us. The clouds have seriously gathered over Television City. It's a live look outside the mothership right now. And here's where we stand with that band of rain that has dropped in from the north. Lightning fairly limited, minus right along the state line. between Missouri and Kansas. So just on the north side of Pittsburgh is where we've seen the majority of the strikes. There's another one picked up right on cue. And then we see it trickle off a little bit out to the west as well. Haven't had a whole lot of lightning for the bands through southwest Missouri. This all came down out of the Omaha area earlier this morning. It was a mess north of Kansas City. And you can tell how quickly this thing moved. This is the last 6 hours alone, the path that it's been able to make. But you also see that it is beginning to diminish as it pushes into the central portion of the 4 states. So really, I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of action south of I-44 for people that need just a little bit of rain. Now, the places that have had rain haven't been too bad. We've seen in excess of an inch in some places. If we go into that dark green area right there, that's 1.5 inches just on the north side of Nevada and Fort Scott. And as we work down through that, we'll see those places that are currently experiencing the rain as it begins to move through portions of Pittsburgh and Lamar right now. Pick up anywhere from about 1/4 to 1/2 inch by the time we get into the afternoon hours. Live look over 7th and Rangeline. Turn it off to the north right there. It's trying to see if we could pick up any of those lightning strikes. Have not had any pop up as of yet, and the intersection remains dry. Just hasn't worked its way that far south yet. 87 degrees with a westerly breeze, feeling like 91. So that's not a huge difference, and we'll kind of keep that 4 to 5 degree temperature to what it actually feels like. And so with that humidity sinking all the way down to 55%, not too bad at all. You can tell though where it did rain earlier this morning, what a difference that makes. We're talking about a 20-degree drop. As far as Iola sitting at 66 is yet to have the rebound, go down to those dry areas, 86 in Neosho and 88 in Miami. So even where we're seeing the rebound begin to take place, places like Fort Scott and Nevada, still about 11, 12-degree difference between the places that haven't picked up any as yet. And check out Sedan out there on the left-hand side, all the way up to 90 degrees. We've been talking about Ida as we have a number of 4-state crews that are down in the southeastern portion of the United States, helping them recover. It is what's considered the post-tropical remnants of Ida now. And as it forces rain just about through halfway through the Carolinas and then as far north as Pennsylvania, it is the flood warnings that definitely are impressive in scope, still stretching from the coast all the way up to New England right now. An idea that this is going to last for the duration of our week. So even though we talk about the immediate threat of the storm surge being over, no, they still can easily get anywhere from 5 to 7 inches of rain as Ida continues to move to the northeast. As we get into the, I should also bring up, we've got Tropical Depression Kate. Tropical Depression Kate now out in the Atlantic. It's way far out there. And so we'll spend some time on that later this week, but I did just want to point out that we have the letter K that has now been formulated as far as our Atlantic basin storms go. Into the low 90s today, perfectly seasonable to end August. And after we have our rain roll through here this afternoon, we're actually going to take a break for the nighttime hours. But then Wednesday morning, very similar in the fact that it's going to drop down from north to south. And this time we actually do see a little bit of it be able to make it on the south side of I-44. So that'll be some welcome rain for everybody in our south and our west. As far as the right-hand portion of your screen, there we go. Ida lasting all the way into Thursday before it finally pushes off into the Atlantic. By the time we get to Thursday, we're going to be going, oh, hello, September heat wave. Just work it up 91, 92, 93, 94 as we head into what's going to be a hot weekend.
Yeah, you can say that again. Definitely hot. Did I miss Jay? We got Ida and Kate. What was Jay?
We did. Julian was North Atlantic Basin, stayed off the East Coast, became named, became a tropical storm, and then rode off to the Northeast.
Yeah, all while we were dealing with Ida.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's not like we were ignoring Julia. Yeah, we were dealing with Ida.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness there was only one. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4th-state hero, Specialist Rodney Wilson in the U.S. Army. The Ucha, Oklahoma native joined the 12th Bravo Combat Engineers. He was stationed out of Germany during the Persian Gulf War. Wilson's crew removed explosive devices and cleared minefields. To Specialist Rodney Wilson, we thank you, our 4th-state hero. There's a secret ingredient to today's short rib recipe that's sure to surprise you. It adds tons of flavor. It's a crumbled slice of pumpernickel bread. Seriously. Howard shows us how to make his fall off the bones short ribs in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
These days, short ribs are one of the hottest and trendiest cuts of meat. But that wasn't always the case. Years back, they would simply grind them up and turn them into ground beef. While they still grind them now and then, today we're seeing short ribs used in all sorts of different ways. Today, we're using them to make a hearty stick-to-your-rib, pun intended, dinner that's perfect any time of year. The first thing we're going to do is brown our short ribs in a heavy soup pot with a bit of oil. Now we add a can of condensed onion soup, some water, a little lemon juice, some ground clove, and a bit of ground black pepper. After it comes to a boil, we'll cover it and let it simmer until the ribs are fork tender. While we wait for that to happen, you might want to make a salad or throw in a pot of water for some noodles to serve with them. Once they're tender, it's time to stir in our secret ingredient, a crumbled slice of pumpernickel bread. The pumpernickel adds an rich old world flavor and helps hearty up our ribs. Serve these over some buttered noodles and spoon on the pan drippings for a restaurant fancy dinner that you can enjoy in the comfort of your own home. To get the recipe for our fall off the bone short ribs, all you need to do is visit our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a fork tender way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I call it a pumpernickel way. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
There you go, Miss Tanya. You were asking about Julian?
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
It never did affect land. It's spinning out there. It didn't do anything. All right, we got good soaker here coming down right in the central portion of the 4 states, making its way through Pittsburgh right now. Everything dropping down to the south. Temperature's still going to be up into the 90s today. You'll notice a good drop when the rain does roll through your community, but at the same point in time, let's go ahead and end up August and begin September in the 90s.
Right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, with so many students learning remotely last year, the burden of childcare fell even more on parents. Now there's a renewed focus on childcare as many people get ready to head back to the office. We're going to take you inside a company in Virginia that believes the solution is allowing employees to bring their babies to work. Plus, how the Delta variant surge is affecting local med flight calls, and Kansas governor and Dillon stores team up to launch a new vaccine incentive plan. Hope you'll join us. KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.